We'll speak now to the former Australian Prime Minister, Gillard, who is now also the chair of the Wellcome Trust, and she's speaking to us live from Dubai. Good morning, Ms. Gillard. Can I just first ask you about Israel and Gaza? You are an experienced political leader on the world stage. The short truce has ended. Mrs. Harris told the conference yesterday that the death toll is already too high. From where you are, talking to people in Dubai, is there any sense that the support for Israel is wavering in any way?
Well, I'd have to be clear that I've been on a different mission in Dubai. We're here at COP, and being chair of Wellcome, I've been here for what is the first ever Climate and Health Day, so a recognition that the climate crisis is a health crisis. And yes, we can measure it in degrees of temperature, but we can also measure it in human lives. So all of my discussions have been around that, not more broadly.
OK, well, let's come to that. You are, as you say, trying to draw attention to the effects of climate change on health. We've seen at least one study that says 70,000 people, or there were 70,000 excess deaths last year alone due to extreme heat. What sort of impact are we talking about other than that?
Well, extreme heat in many ways is just the start of it, as bad as that is. We are also seeing infectious diseases going into zones that they haven't been before, because climate change, warmer, wetter, is enabling those diseases and the insects that carry those diseases to thrive in new regions. You've pointed to extreme heat. Obviously, there's a whole set of questions about human biology and extreme heat. And we also know that climate change in many parts of the world is degrading the food system. So there's less food, and the food that is grown is less nutritious. But to be frank, one of the reasons Wellcome is in this space is because we don't know yet every manifestation of the effects of climate change on health. That's why we're investing this year alone £100 million to make sure that the scientific community globally can fully inform us about the likely ramifications of climate and health. And hopefully that's a spur to action to get leaders at events like this to do more to address climate change, and it can inform how we adapt to climate change, and particularly how we get our health systems ready. For example, we're trying to assist with things like being able to map where outbreaks of things like cholera are most likely to start, and that anticipatory work can obviously help a health system get prepared.
What would you expect, or what would you like to come out of these sessions from world leaders? We've seen that there is a deal pretty much on the loss and damage question, the support for smaller nations facing extinction. There's a deal on nuclear energy, it looks like. What would you like to see them do on health?
Well, we're very pleased that this has been the first COP at which health has been raised, that there's been a Climate and Health Day. The hosts at UAE have facilitated that. We're grateful for that. We're also very pleased to see 123 countries have signed on to a climate and health declaration. But we recognise with all of that, it's just the start. We do need to be addressing the transition from fossil fuels, because properly viewed, the continued use of fossil fuels does create a public health problem in many, many ways. It's obviously feeding into the climate crisis, but the air pollution from fossil fuels directly, we know from research in the British Medical Journal, costs around 5 million lives each year.
It's obviously a top agenda topic right across the globe. But what has been emerging in the last year, actually in the last few months very strongly, is that not everybody agrees. And the battle of ideas, which I think many people, like yourself, would have thought had been won at COP26 in Glasgow, hasn't. We've seen challenges to net zero targets by political leaders in Holland, in France, now in Argentina, who've been successful. I was in Germany at the start of this week, and there the Alternative for Deutschland has made enormous progress electorally, largely on their opposition to net zero. The battle that you're fighting is still to be won, isn't it?
Yes, in many parts of the world it is, and right around the world we need to lift ambition. And I get that communities, families, individuals say to themselves, well, look, you know, my life is pretty hard today and I've got to focus on the things that matter for my family. There are cost of living pressures, all of those sorts of issues, and that's what I'm worried about. I can completely get that. But we are saying to people, look, if you properly view this climate crisis as a health crisis, I think we're all able to say as individuals, there's nothing more important to us than our own health and the health of our family members. And so we're saying to people, look, if you believe that, and many, you know, I think people in their billions do believe that health is fundamental, then that does take you in the direction of addressing climate change, because it is going to matter for human health. It already is mattering for human health, and we're going to see greater effects in the future. And whilst, being in a high-income country, the benefits of being in a more wealthy place can help shield people, in truth, no one's going to be immune from these health effects.
Well, there is a difference between the high-income and the lower-income countries, isn't there? I mean, we still have to hear much, I think, this time round from China and India. At COP28 in Glasgow, they essentially watered down the deal because their argument, of course, is that you guys, us, Britain, America, Australia, you've had 200 years of polluting the world, got the advantages of it, and now you expect us to slow our development because of something that you did. What are you saying to the Chinese and the Indians when they put that case to you?
Well, the declaration from this COP is still under negotiation, so there's still time, and there's still time to make sure that it reflects these health issues. What I would say, broadly to everybody is we only share the one planet. We've only got the one planet. And of course, people want to see economic development. They want to see prosperity. Nations want to see that. Individuals and communities want to see that. We want to see that in our own lives for our own families. But there are ways of doing the transition that also are good for economic growth. And coming back to this health agenda, of course, I mean, poor health in the community is an economic issue. If we haven't learned that after the pandemic, I'm not sure when we're going to. It shows in lost productivity, lost opportunity, and greater health and social care costs.
I know that you're there for a very specific reason, but I wonder if I may just take you on to another topic which I know has always been of interest to you, and that is the position of women, particularly, well, across the globe, but the issue of women in wars. You are chair of the Global Institute for Women's Leadership, and I think it's probably more accurate to say an accusation has been levelled that many of the world's governments, many of its leaders, and the UN in particular, has had too little to say about what happened to women on October the 7th. You will probably know of the material that's been circulated, the accounts of horrid, I mean, all rape is horrible, particularly brutal and pretty much unspeakable acts. What is your reaction to those who are saying that the world's leaders have somehow gone absent on the issue of the treatment of women in this particular conflict?
Well, I'm not sure I'm across every world leader's statement on it, but on my own behalf, obviously what I'd say is gender-based violence everywhere, whether it's October 7 in Israel or anywhere in the world, is wholly unacceptable. We know that gender-based violence continues to blight the lives of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of women. And, you know, with my Global Institute for Women's Leadership hat on, we obviously want to see a world of greater gender equality and a world that is one in which women can go about their lives with safety and security.
Julia Gillard, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, and sorry for the fiddling with the earpiece, but I've been able to hear you, so that's a great result.